Hey there guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another map guide in Black Ops Cold War. Today we are of course taking a look at Crossroads Strike, which as many of you may know is a much smaller version of Crossroads, which was not received very well initially on those sort of combined arms game modes, but Crossroads Strike is actually a very good map in this game. Now, mostly because it is so super small. Like you can see, I'll flash up an actual picture of the minimap on the screen right now. This is the entirety of the map. That is literally it. There's two buildings and basically that's it. And it's really fun. Like, it's one of those maps that just plays so super well because it's fast paced, everybody's running around everywhere all the time, and it just feels really nice. So, starting off here, as usual, we got the A flag on this particular option. These are very large sites if I am paying attention here. These are really large. Then you move over to the B flag, which is, of course, this tank area. A lot of people will pretty much sit around this area a lot of the map. And yeah, essentially, this is the B flag. It's fairly large as well, covers most of the tank. You can hide behind that for the most part. And of course we move over to the C flag, which is a little bit tricky because it mostly faces this door, which is not ideal. And it also comes over the back here. And then you can come around the back, jump over the side, and it also encompasses this area as well. So this is a little bit trickier of a site because it does have that line there, and you can climb up over here. Alright, so probably the spot that you've seen most often that is fairly annoying, and I see it a lot when I'm coming from this particular angle here or coming around this way, is this particular head glitch here. Like, it is a very powerful position. For the most part, you can see, like, the A flag. You can also see the B flag, and you can stop people coming from the C flag. So this is a very powerful spot to sit. You just sort of crouch up and in and out of these, like, tires and stuff like that. The pallet, you can control most of the map just by sitting in this area. So it's also important to know that you can usually chuck, like, grenades and so on off this wall here. And typically, they will sort of land in this area and sort of push people off this spot. So if you are looking back here, for example, you can come up the side here and chuck like a Semtex over there. It will land in about the right spot. And it'll at least scare somebody who's sitting here. It might try and push them off the map. If you can come around here and sort of get a couple of shots on them, you should be able to kill them. This is a very important spot to hold because, I mean, a lot of people will just sit here on this head glitch and just wait for people to come to them. And that's a fairly important spot on this map. Now, of course, this particular hallway is an absolute death trap. Most of the time you spawn on the A flag, you come up here, and you will be faced with this. And there will be an enemy here, I believe. C gets there first. So whoever spawns on this particular side first does actually make it here first. So they can be lying down here waiting for you to walk into them. So it's probably a good idea whenever you do try and come up here to just like chuck a little grenade in there. Make sure you can actually like chuck a grenade at that spot to try and clear it off before you do just peek out like an idiot, because you will for the most part get shot immediately if you do come up here straight away, because I believe C side gets there first. And coming from the other way, this works exactly the same. Very similar. If you chuck a grenade in there, for the most part, you will get a kill on somebody who does come from the A spawn. They'll come up the stairs, run into that building, and essentially you should be able to get at least a little bit of damage on them with some kind of grenade, or you can probably just finish them off with your gun. Now, a fairly interesting side of the map is, of course, this particular long line of sight here. You can pretty much see all the way back into that spawn. Most of the time, the enemies will spawn behind those green crates or further off to the left. And you can pretty much just sort of hold this position. You will have to sort of deal with longer fights. Like, you typically will be competing against sort of assault rifles and snipers, of course, on this particular long line of sight, because you can see all the way back there. So this is a fairly common sniper area, and it's fairly important that you know how to make your way up and down this area. You can, of course, jump on these boxes, jump up here. This is probably the way that I would recommend coming up here. Most of the time, if you do come up this way, come up on the barrels, come up on the concrete pillar. Most of the time, people will be sitting here watching these spots for you because it's a fairly unprotected line of sight. Even though there is this big sheet metal wall there, essentially, if somebody is sitting back here for whatever reason, they can just see you, and on the other side as well. If you come over here, you can basically just see anybody who is jumping up there. So it is a little bit less protected because there's no sheet wall, but most of the time people are expecting you to come up from there. So if you do come over here, jump up on that one there, jump up on the rocks here, you can get a little bit of a wider peak, which means you might take someone by surprise who is watching this particular spot. So take that in mind when you are trying to attempt to come up here. Also, you can jump up on these barrels and then jump up here as well, which is another neat little quick way to get up here, especially on hardpoint. There is a hardpoint that lasts like that area there. So if you do come up on this side, jump up on the barrels, jump up here, that's a fairly easy way to get a nice kill on somebody who is protecting the hardpoint. But of course, this is actually a very good side of the map to get into, because if you are in here, you can pretty much take out the people who are trying to fight at these longer lines of sight. For example, somebody does spawn back here, they come over here, try and get on this line of sight, and you can actually flank up this side. It's not super common. People don't usually do this and flank up the outside, but there's a fairly easy way to get some kills that you do see all across the A side. So if anybody does spawn back there, which is fairly common, you can pretty much take them out from this position here, then you can maybe move up, push the spawns a little bit further that way, and you have a nice line of sight up to there as well. And if you keep pushing around here, you can pretty much see all the way back into that very powerful position, which is over there, which we mentioned earlier. So that is a fairly good flank if you do want to come all the way around this way. There is, of course, a munitions box in this particular room here, which you can use to resupply yourself. A lot of people will typically sit here. There is also a hard point on this particular option here. So a lot of people will typically sit in these corners. So make sure if you are coming from this particular way, the best way to get into this room is, of course, from this way. Because if people are hiding in these corners, you want to check them first. And it's very, very easy to do from the high ground. Whereas then people will most likely sit in this corner here because people just love sitting in corners in this game. So they'll sit there, there, and here. This is a fairly notable head glitch as well. A lot of people will sit on these barrels and wait for you to come over there, and then you can just pick them off. So this is important to sort of chuck nades and stuff at this particular spot here. If you chuck a nade over here, you can land it in this area here. You might end up getting someone to back off here. They might end up running away. They might end up running out into the open, or they might just sit here and wait for you to come shoot them. So of course, this is a very powerful position to hold. And then you come up over here as well as a very similar position. You can see into the building there. You can also see back onto the C flag, almost a C flag. So this is another position that you do have to hold. And in the middle hallway, another position as well, just like quietly here. This is sort of very, very common as well. It's not a great position to hold. This box isn't actually high enough for you to actually have a decent head glitch on it. Whereas these barrels are actually quite tall. So you can actually sort of sit here, jump up over here, and then crouch. Because the angle's a little bit different on that side. So it is a little bit of an interesting spot when you do compare those two. But if you come into the middle, this is fairly unprotected, and a lot of people will not notice you if you are sort of under here and they're running across the catwalk. So you can usually take them out from here. People are running across you, like a nice little shot on them, and you should get easy kills. People also usually don't check out of this corridor. So if they're running out of here, they usually won't check this way. So if you are, for example, hiding around this corner here, you can usually get somebody here. If you do hear their footsteps, you can usually get an easy pick on them if they are coming out of this door. Now, these rooms are, of course, very, very interesting. Do you sit in them or not? Like, it's one of those things where I've seen some like massive success on people. There's also another resupply here. I've seen people have massive success on here, just like sitting in these particular spots here in the corners of this room, using this particular truck as like cover as they weave in and out of this particular room. Like, you want to come out here, you want to come up here, hold that door there, not hear anyone. You come look at the B flag, push up a little bit, maybe take out someone on that head glitch there, move back into the building. Sort of playing around this car. It is the best cover that is in this building, and this is a fairly hotly contested area. Like, lots of people will usually be coming in here to try and pick you off or take you out. So if you are making very, very good use of the cover that is here, moving around, constantly moving in and out of the doorways, because people love running into these buildings. Just like, they'll run in there and they'll be like, oh, there's a guy in here, and then they'll panic. So also, lots of people do sit in the corners of these rooms. So if you are coming in from this particular option here, so for example, you come this way and you're running in towards the C flag, somebody will probably be sitting here. So it's worth clearing this corner as well. But you do learn these sort of spots that people sit in as you do play the map a lot more, because people just love sitting in corners in these rooms. Now, we already spoke about the catwalk, and it is very, very dangerous to walk across it because people can see you from that particular spot there. And sometimes people do sit on these boxes here. So this is a fairly common line of sight as well. A lot of people will sit back here and then try and shoot up here. So if you are running across the catwalk, it's probably best to just like absolutely gun it across. Maybe if you want to smoke grenade it as well, you can just gun it across pretty safely. Also, another fairly interesting spot. This is probably one of the best spots, like the best lines of sight that you can get on this map. I almost forgot about this. Like, I wasn't actually going to say anything about this, and I just remembered. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good spot. So if you actually peek out on this window, you can see all the way back into that flag there, which I mean is a hard point sometimes. You can pick people off there, because as I mentioned as well, that's the longer line of sight there. So if you take somebody out sitting on there, you can then move back here. If they were shooting at someone, you might get an easy pick on them at the B flag as well. So keep that in mind. And of course, you can do this with the other window as well. This lets you sort of snipe on this particular option here. You get a little bit of a wider angle. You come over here as well. It's a little bit shallower. But I mean, if you do peek out on these windows, you are very, very visible from below. So if you aren't paying attention or you're only looking here, like say you have a sniper or whatever, and you're angled at this, people can very easily see you from like there. Like, it's super, super easy to spot you if you are hanging out of the window. So keep that in mind. Of course, you can jump up here, see the back of the A flag, and then across to the C flag almost as well. You also see this door from here. It's not actually a bad spot to sit. I think you might be able to get up into that window, or at least you can probably jump to the crate from the window. So we'll jump up here, jump back up here. You also, for some reason, can't climb this, which is actually very, very annoying. It is a fairly tall one, but I've seen taller things that you can climb on. But you can climb up this particular rail here and move it out. So if we want to jump onto this particular option here, that is what that is designed for. That's why that's there. If you see on Call of Duty maps something that looks like you should be able to jump on it, typically you can, and it is designed to sort of let you know that you can get across here. So then you can sit up here, you can sort of peek on this particular option here. Nice little head glitch if you are crouched and then just sort of lay down prone. It's going to be fairly tricky for people to land like grenades and stuff on you unless they throw them from up there, because it's fairly tricky to stick like a grenade. So for example, if you try and stick a grenade on that, it'll most likely just go over the back. So that's a fairly interesting thing to keep in mind. You can actually climb up on these rocks as well if you are interested in getting a little bit of a faster way than running up the stairs. So for example, you spawn back here. You spawn in this particular spot here, you run instead of going up the stairs like everybody else would. You might actually be able to make use of this. Then you can see over the back, unless you want to run around this corner like everybody does. Everybody will run around this corner, sit on these barrels here. So you make yourself a fairly easy target if people do know that you're going to sit there. So if you want to come up here, jump on the rocks, you may be able to see a better line of sight here. And people typically aren't expecting you to be up here because this is a fairly uncommon spot. So you can usually just sort of peek up and down here, maybe slide off the rock and get a little jump kill on someone. Also, something else that you might find fairly interesting here is that there is actually like a bit of a noob tube spot. So if you line it up here, you can launch one over the actual roof there. And I'll try and show it in the actual theater mode, because if you come over here, it'll land basically on where this spawn is. And you can pretty much just noob tube from the spawn. It's like Modern Warfare 2 all over again. So hopefully your grenade will land in about this area here, which is, of course, I think they spawn all the way back here. So they do have to run a little bit forward. So if you do launch one over this particular building here, eventually you'll end up getting some kills, which is very, very goofy as well. So I'll try and show it here. So it is actually kind of hard to get this lineup to work. It's also kind of hard to use the goddamn theater mode in this game. But I mean, you can see we are spawning back there. If you do end up shooting an actual grenade over this particular roof here, you do kind of want to get it to land around this area. We, of course, did shoot it too far, as you'll be able to see. He shoots it and it explodes back there. So we shot it way too far. But it's actually not too far off. They do spawn in this particular area here. So if you do angle it slightly differently, you will end up getting a spawn kill. So, and I haven't really given it much testing in actual gameplay because I didn't want to make anybody super upset or anything like that. And you can't actually get bots in this particular map, as we said. So it is hard to practice, but it is something that you can do. You might want to just give this a try for yourself, test it out for a bit and actually try that out, because it is fairly fun to get like an opening 5-man feed with a grenade launcher off the rip, which is fairly hilarious. You can, of course, climb on this truck and sit back here and wait for people to come through the backside. Like, if people are coming from that flag to B, essentially you can just sit on this sort of area here. There's a lot of cover that you can sit on, so you can make use of this particular area here. It might be useful if you do have a sniper. Because of any other sort of, like, automatic weapons, it can be a little bit tricky to pit people on this particular head glitch here, because, as I mentioned, that box there is very important. So if you are using this particular spot as a sniper, you can sort of entrench yourself here and make yourself very, very easy to, very, very hard to kill rather. This is a very, very good spot if you like just want to sit here and chill. You don't really want to move too much. This is a very, very good spot on the map. For the most part, this map is fairly simple and I really do like it. It's one of those maps that's always going to be cool. Like, this is also back here as well if you want to defend this. Your little jump peak over the top. But as I said, that's pretty much it for this particular map. Like, there isn't really too much else to cover on this particular map. I do enjoy this one an awful lot. It is one of the more sort of entertaining maps, very fast paced and stuff like that. So if you are looking for more of these map guides, hopefully we'll get around to like making videos on most of the maps. It's a little bit shame that you can't actually add bots to Crossroads Strike and Armada Strike, which is really strange. I don't know why you can't do that, but it is what it is. So if you are looking for more of these map guides, hopefully you do get around to making more of them soon. Make sure you hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on if you do want to see more of these, because they are actually kind of fun to make. And I will, of course, see you in the next video. Bye!